What is this Black River paddle all about? It's about making an impact by inspiring the good stewardship of our waters and our lands. It's about bringing these experiences to you in hopes of fostering a greater respect. We have a long and deep connection to our wild places. They fill us with a wonder, a curiosity. We have paddled down this river, camping along its sandy banks to experience this place of memories, to learn from and to understand our river so that we can protect what might be lost, not only within our wild places, but also within ourselves, within our youth and our future. So paddle along with us and get to know our Black River. When we last paddled together, we had made it to Andrews, South Carolina, and were preparing to explore the beautiful Black River Cypress Preserve. At this stage of the river, it is apparent that the landscape is changing. We started in the Narrows of Williamsburg County, witnessed the topography change as the river cuts through the remains of ancient mountain peaks. We had a look into Kelly's Cave. We discovered some of the most ancient trees, the largest and oldest on the eastern coast. Great trees that have possibly seen 2,000 years of life. I want to further explore what these trees can teach us. First, we paddled into the Black River Cypress Preserve, which serves as a conduit between communities and these sacred swamps. They invite local leaders, school groups, and the interested public out to their beautiful campus to enjoy biking and kayaking, educational seminars, and even community movie nights. This place is truly a gift to the people of this region, and I am extremely grateful for the people of the Butler Conservation Fund and the Black River Cypress Preserve for protecting and providing this place to us. Last summer, we joined along in a boat ride with some state leaders, guided by Mr. River himself, Chris Crowley of Coastal Expeditions.
Right? So it's about the journey of the river and the life of a river. And a river and the life of a river flows through a community. And a community also has a life and a health. And I think the more closely you can be in contact with the river, the healthier your community can be.
Chris is someone that I aim to emulate. He is a passionate and educated outdoorsman. He preaches a poetic love for our wild places, and I can't think of anyone who has seen more rivers. Chris inspires me to join in the poetry of this river. But you should listen to some of his words yourself.
Don't you wonder what that's like in there? I mean, it's like walking down a country road. Don't you want a little kayak or canoe or something to go up there and see what's happening in that place? I mean, you'd feel like you're completely alone, like you're the first one. You'd be looking at things that no man had ever seen, you know? And a prothonotary warbler would come in, or a band of them would roll through, or a swallowtail kite would hunt some dragonflies overhead.
Are they they're not threatened?
I think at 150 miles, 75 miles of this has been preserved. More than half the river or so, or at least declared a scenic river classification. And much of it, as we cruise through here, is conserved on both sides. That's the problem with river conservation, is you got to buy both sides of the river, right?
Amen.
One of the things I do is I study the history to see where we came from and remind us of that sort of thing. But when I look at when the French tried to settle here, and the Spanish tried to settle here, and the British tried to settle here, and it didn't work, this would be like St. Helena Sound down around Beaufort. And then finally, when they came ashore under Charles II in 1670, and they made it work, they had figured out that the value of this colony wasn't the gold that the Spanish were seeking. The value has always been the land and the water. You know, and we got water here like Saudi Arabia's got oil.
Right.
You know, it's like this is not a common thing to have on Earth, and but the value deriving from the land, like you can cut that tree down and sell it once, or you could sell it 1,000 times if it's part of your ecotourism economic model. You know, a sustainable, renewable education model that's tied to the health of the environment, and the health of the environment tied to the health of the communities that support the river corridor, like where we are now. But it's always been the land. It's never not been the land in South Carolina that was the derivation of not just great wealth, but sort of human prosperity.
Dr. Wright was saying when we were about to go out to the press conference, she was telling the governor, you know, access to this river won't just be for recreation for our community. There are plenty of people that help support their family by fishing this river, and having more places to fish, you know, will be an important part of the economy.
The nature, the natural setting that we have, and the lack of access is the reason it's this way. I mean, we're talking about granting more public access, especially in Williamsburg County. So there's the real challenge of how do you balance between keeping things the way it is, but yet changing it enough to make it accessible to everyone, where everyone can enjoy so much more of it.
It's a good problem to solve. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, that common goal, you know, I tell you, you got some of the smartest people I've ever met thinking about it, you know, and you could be one of the smartest people I ever met. I just hadn't known you long enough.
I think as people are educated comes respect, and when visitors respect the river, they're not going to leave trash. I think people like us that come out here, we're not going to leave any trash. So I think as people are, and children, young people are educated, respect will come with that, and I think they will protect this river.
I grew up out in nature, and I grew up in a farm area, but it changes your life and your perspective and your, you know, we know folks who never leave home, they never leave asphalt, and their world is just so bound. But you put somebody out in nature and let them, I mean, philosophy, sociology, everything comes out with nature.
And then science.
Yeah, and especially science.
Brain science.
Yeah.
The kids learn more,
Yeah.
better, retain more, better if it's happening outside, especially when they're active. And these kids that are showing up are local kids, and they look more like you than they do like me.
Right.
And they get on the river scared of alligators and snakes and drowning, and those are, you know, some
That's
of those
our
are real
culture,
risks.
right.
And they get off the water, and it's like they had just landed on the moon. They can't believe it. They have conquered something. They have a new echelon of what's
Imagine
possible.
the next time their science teacher talks about ecosystems or something, they would have just said, but now, yeah, or life changing.
They got something. Yeah, let's do that. That's a good point. Let's just be quiet for a second and hear. That's a real good point. Not a single artificial sound.
Back at the Cypress Preserve's new peninsula track, I met up with Aaron Pate and John Irwin, who are both instrumental in this incredible access point along Black River. John is responsible for managing these properties and keeping the water and walking trails clear. Recently, a controlled burn spread onto this tract, and we set out to survey the peninsula to see what we could find.
Maybe 2 years ago, we were cleaning out. I was putting in there at King Street at the park right there. And I think we filled that John boat up, and one day I filled it up 3 times, and I was having to dump trash. I was having to hop off on people's property and say, hey, y'all mind if I put these trash bags here, and I'll come back and get them? Because the boat was getting so low in the water, I was burning up the motor. Pulled in, and they had 6 trash bags in the bed of their truck, and it looked like they were about to dump them in the river. And then they saw me with all the trash, and they immediately got back in their truck and turned around and left. And then I did that 2 weeks later at, not the park, but what's the one right below King Street? like people just think, oh, they just throw trash out, even if you're not near the river. No matter, we get any type of rain, precipitation, anything, it's pulling everything into that river.
But part of it is people don't understand the amount of work that goes in to waterway management.
Right.
So I want to kind of compare both, like how much money goes into managing these places? Because people just think, oh no, I'm outside, it's natural.
I'm getting to enjoy it.
Yeah, they don't realize, no, there's a lot of work that goes into it.
And Mother Nature calls for half the work,
Yeah.
I mean, that's all these kayak trails and hiking trails that we've built now it's just maintenance from whenever Mother Nature decides to throw us a couple storms or who cares. But I mean, you're right, it's not cheap to keep up with these. And
well, so that's economic development, sort of. I mean, that's whoever's, if it's John or somebody else getting paid to manage, especially if you end up living in Andrews. That would be awesome.
Oh, I can't wait to get here. I'm so excited. We're already looking at houses. I found one right in town.
I think about 10 years down, man, Andrews is going to be a lot different. These parks are going to bring a lot of investment.
Enough time, solely focused on looking for that cypress.
Mm-hmm.
While I've been working and making new kayak trails, I've looked for that thing.
You're talking about a different one than the one?
Yeah, apparently there's one that
it's even larger.
Cypress looks small.
Yeah, like a possibly 2,000-year-old tree.
Yeah, I've heard.
You've heard it, but you've never seen it.
Yeah, Tommy's told me about it. The guy right here, and then there's some some older fossil finding guys. They go dig for old artifacts in the Black River, and they told me about it. And they were like, man, I can't remember for the life of me where it is.
You sure they're not confusing the other one?
The Butler and Gates told me about it as well, that they've heard that there was another
Okay.
cypress around.
Yeah, Drucker was telling me about it.
Oh, yeah?
And so,
Yeah, Bruce told me about it as well. That's another person.
Alligators and giant trees will have to wait until later this episode, as we soon began to see smoke rising through this forest. We had found the remnants of an escaped controlled burn. Fire is a tool for forest management that we've been using for generations. Fires are lit and closely watched to control the dense growth of low-lying vegetation in these hardwood bottomland forests. Many native trees are resistant to fire, and additionally, some plants, such as the longleaf and loblolly pine, need fire to help with seed dispersion. After fires sweep through this low-lying brush, this forest will soon pop back into green and vibrant life again. And although these controlled fires are closely managed and fire breaks are common along Black River, occasionally they do get out of hand. Most of the wildlife is able to outpace or escape these seasonal fires. And in my opinion, the main risk of controlled burns is to nesting creatures such as turkey and quail, whose declining numbers have hunters in dismay. At the end of the day, we must rely on our experts, who manage our wild and forested lands, to continually monitor and reassess, to adapt to Mother Nature's changing ways. It is a lofty task in hand.
Unless it's hunting season, and they say, as sad as it is, a lot of people, if they do see gators out here, they're hunting and fishing. They're gonna get rid of them. They got their kids playing in the river, people are playing in the river.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So a lot of these locals, I don't think seen any other gator. I've never seen a gator in this river.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have.
I've been in the
How about
swamp
that?
where I thought for sure a monster was gonna swim out under logs and pull me under, and it's never happened. I've just never really worried about it.
Yeah, especially you're all in that
Oh
swamp.
yeah. I mean, walking with a chainsaw on my shoulder.
We'll make a movie like that, eh?
Yeah, that'd be badass.
We talked about the alligators seen along Black River. We talked about the safety issues, children swimming, and how alligator hunting has put a curb on numbers of large gators. This is a controversial subject, as I, a lover of all of our native animal species, want to see our largest alligators preserved. I never want to see a day in which 15, 16-foot alligators are gone from these waters completely. However, how do we manage this in a way that is safe for users of this river? These thick swamps are some of the most natural and well-preserved along this river. They are home to the greatest and oldest cypress trees, the ones that missed the colonial axes and the saw blades of the burgeoning timber industry. I have heard rumors of our greatest tree, one that you could park an automobile within its footprint. I will paddle into the thickest swamps on this part of the river, searching for this giant tree. These trees absolutely inspire me. They are our only living connections to indigenous peoples, to extinct species, and even to the prehistory of this land. Saw a couple of buddies at the landing, and that's a beautiful thing about this Black River as well, is that there's a community to this place. Because of the access points and the increased access that we can look forward to in the future. This might be the creek. Because of all this access, you can come out here and see people, right? Two buddies of mine are getting ready to put in. They actually help manage a lot of these properties, and so they're gonna come into here and they're gonna be putting up markers to let people know where's the creek, where's the trail, how do you get back out to the river? Because as you can see, and as we'll see as we paddle farther, these places, it's so easy to get lost because what starts off as a creek will soon just become a swamp where you could paddle in any direction and get lost in these groves of giant trees. So seeing guys out here putting up markers, that's a beautiful thing. And so this place attracts like-minded people. It attracts people that love the great outdoors because, as you can see, it's such a vibrant example of just pristine, untouched, natural ecosystem. So I'm gonna quiet down because I do want to see some wildlife. Hopefully we'll see some otters out here. Got a beautiful old tree right there.
In this section of the Black River, we've got all kinds of chutes and trails coming off this main river channel. And we've gone in and continue to clear up what Mother Nature puts down in front of us. And each of these markers is telling you a different side of the trail. So we've got blue, which will point always upriver on all of our trails. But on any of the other trails, we've got a different color pointing you downriver, which will take you either right back here to Pine Tree Landing or to the Black River Cypress Preserve. And we just try and put these up on our smaller trees. We don't want to use any big ball cypress, any huge oaks. We're really trying to have the least amount of impact as possible. We're always giving room when we nail these in for these trees to grow and push these out so we're not harming anything. But that's the goal right now, is to get people that come and enjoy this area. We don't want to have to guide them everywhere we go. We want everybody to be able to come out here and do this themselves. And so that's the end goal out here on the Black River.
John makes a really good point. We want people to be able to come out here and experience this place for themselves. While guide companies provide a safe and incredible education for groups, there's simply no education like coming out here and sitting in the solitude of silence for yourself. Just be sure to pack out your trash.
I got some stuff for y'all. What's up? Y'all got a little more room, so I hope you don't mind.
Toss it in here. Dump it all in here.
Do you know of any, I guess, like, I'm gonna look for a little offshoot creek that I can get up real deep. I mean, well, this one's kind of full. I'm sure they're all kind of full right now, but
Man, the fucking remember I was alligator weed and all this shit.
yeah.
Have you on back there towards the champion cypress before?
Well, so that's where I want to find it, because I've heard that there's one on this side.
There's another one over here. Really? You're talking about one over here. I've never seen one over here.
The one over here is apparently larger, and so that's my goal, is to just...
That's what she said most of the time. Ron probably knows like the size of the fucking truck. That's bad.
I came out here today and met the two Irwin brothers on a Saturday afternoon. They're out here cleaning trash.
That's a little ecosystem.
Yeah, keeping this place clean.
Grab that bottle over there. I got it.
So that piece has probably been out here for at least
the whole ecosystem in itself.
2 seasons, right?
Oh yeah, I would say so.
It's an
They've
old...
probably been floating in the river even longer than that.
Yeah,
It's probably just been sitting here for a minute.
that's the thing. That shit lasts forever, you know?
It does.
It doesn't degrade.
Do it. That one's right there. Put top nail in and then just eye it, make sure it's somewhat level before you finish the second.
All right. Oh. Oh, wow. What a beautiful spot. So I can tell that it's trampled down. A lot of activity right here. And we've got a little beaver dam. I can't really see any end of... Oh, here we go. These are deer tracks. We've got this little circular swamp that heads up this way. I gotta be real aware though of snakes and alligators, because it's these spots where there are beaver. That's where the alligators could be. Because where there is a prey, there's always going to be a predator. So let's take a little walk around this beautiful spot. I guess first, wait, I should get this kayak out. I hope I can do this in a way that I don't knock the camera over. I think I just succeeded. So I gotta be very aware of snakes. I am barefoot for a reason. And that is because, as you can see, the mud out here, it's so thick that you sink right into it. And so also you want to find the roots, and you want to be able to grip these roots. And yes, I'm not doing a good job of it right now, but you want to grip these roots with your toes. And so barefoot is the way to go. You just have to look where you're going, because
there could be snakes sunning anywhere. This is a beautiful day, a perfect day for snakes. Look at this beaver sign right here. The one thing about snakes is you are usually going to see them in specific spots, right? So they're going to be basking on tree limbs, on exposed knees. They're not necessarily going to be down here on the ground level. They might be up in the tree limbs. And so these are all things I kind of do take into note when I'm out here. But yeah, just because I'm doing it, it does not mean you should do it. As you're out in these swamps, you learn to read the land. You grow in a traditional knowledge of these places, discovering the lessons that only can be found with your toes deep in the mud and the sand. This sacred place on Black River is a maze, a labyrinth of water and trees, and the people throughout its history would have needed ways to mark and navigate these thick swamps and creeks. You'll notice that this creek has a gradual bend to the right, and straight ahead, through the green grasses, an offshoot creek stretches to the left. The significance of this place and this tree is palpable, because as you follow the main creek off to the right, following the path of this marker tree, you will find the mother of this sacred grove. Native peoples used the practice of bending trees to mark significant routes or waypoints. And importantly, this practice persisted through early colonization and is even still in use today. Was this an indigenous marker tree? Probably not. So it might not be hundreds of years old, but I believe that this tree was bent with a purpose. This creek, until recently, was a thoroughfare of sorts. It would have been frequently traveled when this river was a highway, and it leads directly by the oldest tree. So I believe that someone, at some point, when this tree was small and would have bordered the edge of the creek, turned this into a waypoint. If not, at least it can serve us as an example of what a marker tree would have looked like. It is in the perfect location, bent the perfect sort of way, and its direction points us right to something that people would have wanted to see. This ancient cypress tree.
And look how giant this tree is. Oh, wow. This is the elder. This is the oldest child of this forest. I'm certainly not the first to find it either. This tree has been here. It is withheld. It is withstood. It is hollow within. It has seen so much, and I bet thousands of people have come and touched and laid their hands upon this tree, because as this creek goes by, this tree would have stood out. The natives would have seen this. They would have stopped. They would have prayed here. I will pray here. This tree is the oldest being in this part of the world. And there's only a few of them left, y'all. Gosh, I'm so glad I came out today. I gotta be real careful with snakes, and hornets. But look at that. I'm here. It's 2022. We just made it through the pandemic. I made it through one of the toughest years of my life, spiritually, emotionally.
The past decade, I've dealt with the loss of my mother and my father in different ways. But to come out here and to see a 2,000-year-old tree or a 1,500-year-old tree, this is freaking amazing. I mean, to think about the people that have seen this, that have touched this. I mean, I'm only one person out here right now, but if you could go back 300, 400, 500 years when there were villages out here, when this creek that I'm on was a highway and when it was more managed, this would have been a landmark that they would have all stopped by and touched and prayed and worshiped. This is a representation of Mother Earth. This is a representation of this entire environment at its epitome. This massive organism that grows out of soft mud and withstands hurricanes for thousands of years. We are so small, we are so insignificant, and we so much because these trees used to be everywhere. And now they're so rare. And I'm blessed to have found this spirit, this living representation of Mother Earth. I want to thank you for this place. I want to thank you for this wonderful ecosystem, this world that you have given us, for these ancient organisms and for the young organisms that we share this amazing world with. I pray, Lord, that we can be better stewards of sacred places, of all places in this world, that we can take care of it, that we can leave behind a better path for future generations to follow. Amen.
As I paddled away from this great tree, I spotted a few others, not quite as ancient, but still quite old, that were hollowed all the way through. It is this feature that saved these trees from the timber industry, as a hollowed out old tree has little value for lumber. Let me show you.
We are out here in the swamps on this creek that is full of these beautiful ancient cypress trees. This is an old naturalized creek, and many of these trees missed the axe. This one right here could be 500, 600, maybe even a little older. And I noticed at the bottom of this tree as we were paddling by, we've got this huge chunk missing. Now, many of these trees are hollowed out. They're hollowed out by woodpeckers. And so this tree has a hollow cavern going all the way up, and I'm very curious to know what is inside of this tree. With these really old trees, we know that ivory-billed woodpeckers and Carolina parakeets, which are our extinct beloved bird species here in the Carolinas, they nested within these trees. And so possibly there could be layers of old nest, old debris within this tree. And just maybe it's a slim chance, but there could be a 200-year-old Carolina parakeet skull hidden within this tree. We don't know unless we try to look. So I'm gonna take this GoPro, I'm gonna send it inside this tree and take a look around and see what we'll find. Now, there could be snakes in here, there could be a raccoon living up in there, who knows? Thousands of creatures call these trees home. So let's hope there's nothing in there that can bite us. So it's hollow all the way to the top. You can see the halo way up there. So this is a great example of how these trees, again, are hollowed out in the center. They're habitat for all sorts of animals.
They give these animals protection during the storms, but also by being hollowed out, these trees lose a lot of their mass, yet they keep the structural integrity of the circular structural design, right? And so that keeps this tree strong. It keeps it resilient against storms and toppling, and allows it to keep growing for thousands of years as a giant millennial cypress tree. Let's try to get back in there, better vantage.
So it's about maybe 8 inches thick, and then all inside it's completely hollow. Like I could stand up inside. But the bottom's all water, so I'm not gonna even make that attempt. But if I could get a little deeper in.
So many of the largest and oldest cypress trees have become completely hollow throughout. This process starts with the woodpeckers and other wood-boring creatures that create hollows and caverns within these great trees. Over the centuries, water becomes trapped inside and contributes to the softening of the wood. Grubs and insects will eat through the softened xylem and phloem interiors, while the exterior continues to grow strong and rigid. After centuries of water intrusion, insects, and woodpeckers, we find a tree that is hollowed out top to bottom. And it is this feature which saved the oldest cypress trees from the axe, as a hollowed out tree had little value as lumber. That is why we can still see some of these giant trees today, and why most of them that we have access to are completely hollow through and through.
So, because it's hollowed all the way through, no nests, nothing like that in there, no Carolina parakeet skulls, but we'll keep looking. We'll never find one if we don't look, so.
That is a massive tree. Now this is a wide angle lens, so there's a perspective distortion. Anytime you have photography, if you have a wide angle lens like this one, you get a distortion. But just across, I would say this tree is 8 feet in diameter. Goes all the way up to where it was broken off. Now if I paddle around to the other side of this tree, I bet you, also let me note real quick, it is only about 2.5 feet deep, but this is probably continuously submerged. So if we come around to the back of this tree, I bet there will be a cavity. All right, yep, so right up there, you've got a cavity. Now look, we've got giant burls. I might be able to climb this tree. I didn't bring a climbing rope, but and we got some poison ivy growing up it, which I don't want to mess with poison ivy. I hate poison ivy. But dang, I can maybe get up in there. Really, poison ivy growing everywhere. So after this trip, I'm gonna have to take a bath in Technu, which is the only poison ivy remedy that I've found effective. And I get it every year, multiple times, because I do this all the time. This is my favorite thing to do. Now pull through right here, and look at that. That's a good view. That only cost me some poison ivy rash. But look at that. Try to just nudge myself closer and closer and then find a comfortable spot where I'll get out. But that, look at that big burl. You could almost sit on there. So those are the briars I keep talking about. They start as these little green shoots. Then the thicker woody shoot to the right is what it looks like as it gets older. So you see these are the this is the root structure of the tupelo, or black gum, Nyssa sylvatica. And so this tree is also growing in these swamps, another hardwood that grows along with the cypress. And while they don't have cypress knees, look what they're doing. They're kind of forming their own knee-like structure, where the root structure comes out of the water and it gets high enough above the tide line that it can be fully exposed to air, and then it's dipping right back under. And so this is just more evidence that this structure is for gas exchange. Think about it, you know, these trees need to have some sort of gas exchange. They need to exchange oxygen with carbon. And so when you're living in a flooded landscape, your roots have to come up and you know, breach that water line at some point. And so this is what they do. This is an adaptation. The cypress knees, as we can see right here, that's a big thick cypress knee. The cypress knees are kind of different. You know, they're a whole adaptation amongst themselves. But that is showing that the tupelo is doing its best job to have a cypress knee-like structure as well. So I think that's beautiful evidence of how these great trees are adapted to this environment.
You come from that way, or?
I came way up the creek from the Black River. Okay. I do YouTube videos, and so I'm just out here looking for like wild stuff.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm Steven Hewitt. I work at Santee Cooper Generating Station. I live up right off Snake Sparkleberry. It's the creek. Right, there's a little island right off Sparkleberry. This is the only thing I like to do on my free time. No, there's a lot of fish out here.
A lot of good fishing, a lot of just, I like to do this too. I like to just come out and I try to film stuff, try to look for wildlife. I've only seen a couple snakes today, nothing else.
Yeah, nothing big. Yeah. Now, the water's still a little cold right now, man. I'm mostly out here just wasting time. The water's still a little chilly. You really start catching fish like the beginning of April, halfway through. You get a lot of you can catch catfish all year long out here. But,
yeah. Do you see a lot of gators out here?
Yes. Actually, out there next to my house, there's beaver dams, huge beaver dams, and there's probably hundreds of beavers out there, and the gators kind of live around them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of
food source, I guess.
Yeah, it's fight for the fittest type stuff.
It's part of what you know. I don't think people are going to necessarily come out here and swim. I don't think most people, like, I'm comfortable getting the waters here. But that's one thing I do want to kind of let people know is, there are gators out here, there are snapping turtles, there are snakes that could get you. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. If they're going to be bringing people out here, it's like, you got to be careful.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, follow the markers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you will get lost out here.
Oh, that's for sure.
Green Creek is a lovely place. As long as people keep it clean, you know, take care about themselves.
That's the big thing.
If you look around, there ain't no trash out here for the most part.
Yeah, bring your own trash, and you know what? It's I just saw you saw them as well, the Irwin brothers. Yeah, it's like it's the natives, it's people like you, people like y'all, people like me, the locals, the natives who keep this place clean. And so we love having visitors. We have strong southern hospitality, but we also want to keep this river clean. That's the number one thing. It's been like this for thousands of years.
Yeah, and we're more welcome. Like, we would love to have company, but take care of it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Conserve it.
That's
It's a
my
beautiful place.
that's my big message.
Yeah.
You know, one other thing, I kind of talk about this in my series. When I was a little boy, I always heard like the legends of the Black Panthers, and I'm trying. Do y'all know anything about?
Story for you.
Yeah, perfect. You're the right guy.
Like I said, I work at Y'all Generating Station, right up here in Maryville. We have just like this all through there. Well, some days we'll have to ride around the dike and check the pumps and stuff like that. Well, one day, me and 4 of my friends, we were all working together. We were on a little buggy, like a little side by side, and it's the first one I've ever seen. My mom has told me about them from her being a kid out here, but it walked out. And they say the tail, if you see it, the tail is exactly as long as the body. That's
the thing.
Okay?
Yep.
And we're coming up, and I mean, we're a good ways. We're probably 300 foot off away from it, but it's standing right there, just at the edge of the creek, drinking. And it turns and picks its head up at us, and its tail is just back there dancing, just doing like this. And it turns and looks at us, and I mean, it just slowly just walks off, steps off, and it's gone.
Oh,
they are real.
Y'all as well. It was good to meet y'all. That's the thing about the river, you know, it's like the way things work.
Now, whether you're a believer in the mythic Carolina Black Panther, or these kind of stories make you cringe, I can tell you that we have no evidence that they exist here. Now, when I talk about Black Panthers, I'm not talking about a melanistic cougar, but I'm talking about Panthera, a melanistic jaguar. Jaguar are common in South and Central America, and they even have been known to range into Texas. If we could go back 200 years, there were jaguar in these swamps. And so the idea that at one point in time there was a Black Panther is likely true. However, with all of the trail cameras across the state, we have no shots, no images of the Carolina Panther here any longer. But I can tell you from my experience that there is a large, silent, and deadly predator hidden within these swamps.
Let's go see this gator. I do not want to scare it into the water at all. And now when I paddled up earlier, this guy actually shot out after me and was following me. He gave me kind of a spook. And I thought maybe it's either a beaver or a gator. And I was right, it was a gator. Luckily it's a cold day and so he is just resting. But I'm gonna get a little bit closer. Try to get a better shot of him. But if he moves, I'm gonna be paddling like crazy, so. Oh shit. I don't wanna be making noise. I don't wanna be doing anything that would spook this gator. I want to have my axe ready. Like that's gonna do any good. Let's see how close we can get.
I'm just kidding, y'all. This was not an alligator attack. This is the way that a worst case scenario could play out. You in the water panicking with a large alligator. If indeed you are the subject of an alligator attack, as I have been many times throughout my life, you want to either get away as quickly as you can, or you want to scare the alligator away. First off, This alligator was launching itself into the water out of fear. It sought to get away from me. Typically, when around large alligators, you want to give them some space, and they will leave you be. I've had my kayak bumped up out of the water after paddling over a sleeping gator in the middle of the night. I've had one launch out at me at our pond as a boy, only to have it scared off by our loyal lab. I've seen a 12-foot monster slowly slide into the water 10 feet in front of me in a tiny rice canal with no way to turn around. And I've had a massive 14-foot ancient rise up on Wombaugh and follow me for over 100 feet. 99% of the time, even the biggest of these apex predators want nothing to do with you. But I have seen them reassess the situation once in the water, and I've seen how they can launch themselves feet out of the water to snap down their prey. If you find yourself spooking a large alligator into the water, find the quickest and calmest way out of the situation. But if you feel that that alligator is going to reassess and look at you as prey, then you need to find a way to scare that alligator away. In my attempt to turn around in this small creek, I thumped into the bank. I was sitting on the tail of my kayak, in my stupid style, with the camera sitting in my seat. I decided to use this technique, the paddle slap, a beaver clap, which delivers a loud percussive force that the alligators are sensitive to. Slap your paddle down parallel to the water as hard as you can to create an ear-hammering clap. This will drive even the boldest alligators away, so you can paddle free. Let me be clear though, that in most situations, and with the more common smaller alligators, absolutely no worry is necessary. Just don't get crazy and try to get so close to them as me. They'd rather we just leave them be. After that gator scare, I was ready to leave these thick swamps and head back to the river proper. Along the way, I decided to make some calls for a special and recently extinct bird, a favorite of mine, the ivory-billed woodpecker.
If I can get some service, I'm gonna play the sounds of the ivory-billed woodpecker and then try to emulate it. Right, so that is what the ivory-billed woodpecker sounds like. I'm someone who I try to master calls in the wild. I can do a pretty good barred owl, but the ivory-billed woodpecker, that is a new call that I'd like to add to my repertoire. Let's try that. not too bad, right? Pretty good. I'll try to keep quiet from here on out. I'll probably do the calls every now and then. But really, I'll just be on the lookout for any large birds, any large woodpeckers. Try to get my lens on them and see what they are.
These birds were last sighted by ornithologists in the swamps of Arkansas in 2004 through 2007. But credible footage hasn't been recorded since the 1930s and 40s. Since being declared officially extinct in 2021, funding for research and studies into these ivory bills has dried up, causing outcry from ornithologists and conservationists alike. When we give up the search for an elusive and extremely rare species, we're giving up one reason to conserve our sacred and wild places. So I seek to join my calls into this search, in the slim hopes of rediscovery that could push further conservation efforts. If there's one thing that this Black River paddle can teach us, it's to never give up hope in discovery, in the possibility of the unknown around each bend. We have lost so many of our great species, so many great trees, but within this river we can turn back time. We can revisit our ancient lizards and great trees, connecting ourselves to a time and place almost forgotten that reminds us why more conservation is such a great need.
You know, as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well, when on the Black River, do as the natives do.
Thank you so much for joining us. paddling down Black River on the 4th voyage. If you'd like to support the Black River, check out the Winyah Rivers Alliance, a nonprofit dedicated to protecting the 5 great rivers of the Winyah Bay. I would also like to raise some awareness for an amazing fundraising event coming up, Palmetto Giving Day. That's May 3rd and 4th, a 36-hour online giving event that supports all of the nonprofits in Georgetown County. Check out palmettogivingday.org. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Black River Paddle as we make our way slowly towards the Winyah Bay. We work our way to open waters. The winds blow and the rains come, and we paddle past some old historic rice plantations. We will explore deep into our history of the Gullah Geechee and the rice culture, and how the Civil War shaped this region and this river. We can't wait to see you again in the next Black River Paddle.